welcome to the Monday evening.
Love ball like I do. After Dark, it's a must listen.
It's where I go to get my hoops fixed.
This is Field of 68 After Dark.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Field of 68 After Dark. I'm your host, Cam Smith, and I'm joined by a very first-class crew. Starting over to my right, if you're looking at the screen right now, Mr. Jerel McNeal, one of the finest out of Marquette, definitely holding things down. And right behind me, we got the legend from North Carolina, Tyler Hansbrough, making this a three-man go. And also, we got to add in another piece, man. Ant Wright, Michigan's finest. Of course, you know his breakdowns. I was watching Ant with more of his breakdowns that he had with North Carolina and Kansas. We'll get into that in a little bit. But, fellas, it's great to see you. How we feeling?
Feeling good, man.
Doing good, man. Doing really good, man. Glad to be back, man. Glad to be back.
Yes, sir.
Doing great.
All right, before we get into – all right, love to hear that. Love to hear that. Before we get into that breakdown of North Carolina and Kansas, we have some news that caught a lot of people off guard in the world of college basketball. So earlier today, the Alligator, the Florida school newspaper, reported that men's basketball head coach Todd Golden has been accused by two women of sexual harassment and stalking. Now, the paper reported that a Title IX complaint was filed on September 27th, alleging that he engaged in various conduct that potentially violated the Florida gender equity policy. Now, Florida, the school has yet to issue a statement on Golden's job status. So let me be clear on that. They have yet to issue a statement on Golden's job status. And Golden is in his third season as head coach for the University of Florida. And after that NIT appearance in his first season, the Gators went 24-12 and lost in the first round of the NCAA tournament last year. So Florida's 2-0 right now, and their next game is Monday at home against Grambling State. So a lot of news with that. We'll definitely keep our eyes on that for the Field of 68, especially for After Dark. All right, guys. With that news out there, let's just focus in on what happened tonight, the marquee game between number 9 North Carolina. You had number 1 Kansas in Lawrence. And what I love about that matchup is that it wasn't at a neutral site. Like, we got back to some old school stuff where it's going to be a home-and-home series with Carolina and Kansas. And that first matchup of the home-and-home series was over at Flagg Allen. So, of course, I have to start this conversation with one of the legends from North Carolina and Tyler Hansbrough on how he thought the game went, and really with both teams on how they looked, because you had a situation early, Tyler, where your Tar Heels were down 20 in that first half, but they just found their way back within that ball game, scratching, clawing, and even took the lead for a bit late in the ball club. But eventually Kansas came back to take the lead and win that ball game. So what were your early thoughts on how both teams looked, but also how your Tar Heels looked?
Yeah, and, you know, I got to give my Tar Heels a lot of credit. It looked like they could have just been blown out. A lot of teams, when they go to Flagg and they get down big like that, they don't have the stamina, or, you know, it's such a tough place to play. They usually just kind of give in a little bit. But they dug in. I was really happy with the way that they came out in the second half. And I was, you know, in particular excited because they got down so big and they showed a little, you know, toughness and fought their way back. But, you know, in all honesty, you know, before the game, I thought R.J. Davis had to have a big night for us to have a chance to win. Didn't have his best outing. Neither did Cadeau or, I really felt like, you know, RJ didn't have his best game, but, you know, at the end of the game, for me, the big difference was Hunter Dickinson. And the reason I say that is because whenever they needed points or they needed rebounds, Hunter always came up big for them. So, like we've always said, this year it's going to be tough because we lack size and we don't have the traditional big. And Hunter's obviously one of the best bigs in the country, and he came up big for Kansas when they needed it, and so did Zeke Mayo.
Yeah, no doubt, Tyler. I mean, just carving out space too, Jerel and Ant. We know that of Hunter Dickinson. He's just such a big body. And there were a couple of plays. And I know one of your breakdowns that you had on Twitter, which I love, is just a very nice play with Kansas, how they just ran some action with their guards and had everybody above the free throw line, which isolated Jalen Washington against Hunter Dickinson with no backside help because Washington fronted Hunter on that play. So I love that breakdown that you had.
Yeah, man. Like it's so tough when you have backside action on top of having people raise above the free throw line, because the responsibility is, if you have backside corner and you're supposed to be in help, you have the hole, so you can go to the be the help for that Dickinson lob. But because everybody was so high, nobody knew that their role was to be the hole guy. I think John Beeline called it like it's like a snowball help, where like that's nobody's job. So the person who's furthest away, that has to be your job. Then allow the second furthest player to kind of guard two away from the ball. But unless you go through it repeatedly, it's really hard to guard. But that's good film for North Carolina moving forward, to be able to practice that, see that, and understanding, each person's job if you see that again.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I mean, Jerel, with this matchup, obviously the experience of the guard groups is so important, especially if you're a North Carolina team on the road going in the fog. And you look at guys like RJ Davis, like Tyler said, even though he had 16 points, still really struggled shooting the basketball, 3 of 15. And even him and Elliot Cadeau combined to go 1 of 10 from 3. So when you have those situations where that basketball is not falling through the hoop, you got to find some other way to grind it out and keep yourself active in the game and really kind of stay within striking distance.
No, absolutely. And I'll just start off by first saying kudos to UNC and Kansas just for getting this deal done and make these type of games, especially early in the year. And it was a true road game, obviously a true home game for Kansas, man. And I think Tyler kind of hit it on the head. It was a good check time at halftime. The thing could kind of go either way. I felt like UNC did a really good job at the end of that half, though. The freshman came in and gave them some big minutes with James Brown got a good putback there at the end. Powell, the other kid, came off the bench. He made some good active plays as well too. But it was at a point in that game where the game could have kind of got out of hand. KJ Adams started out the game and had 14 points in the first half, and Dickinson was getting everything that he wanted for the most part. And we kind of knew that was going to be a weakness of UNC just with the size difference, man. But at the end of the day, in college basketball, if you got good guards, you always got a chance. So I feel like they kind of captured that momentum going into the second half. Those guys didn't play nearly as good as they're going to play throughout the course of the year. Cadeau was good passing the ball. He didn't really get his jump shot working tonight, and I know that's something we all kind of going to have our eye on, because we heard so much from Hubert Davis about the strides he's made as a player, especially with his outside shooting and things like that too. And then eventually Seth Trimble didn't have it going early, but he did a great job of just remaining aggressive and attacking the rim and getting some free throws. I think he shot close to 10 free throws tonight. And RJ Davis is, this is what he's going to get every night. He's going to have guys denying him. He's going to have guys face guarding him. You can't expect to go into other hostile places against really good teams and just think it's going to be easy, and guys are just going to let RJ Davis get whatever he wants. They're going to try to make it hard on him. And the game plan a lot of times is going to be try to keep the ball out of his hands and try to make somebody else beat us. But credit to UNC bigs, my boy Big Jalen Washington, Withers, man, those guys, they had it rough early in the first half, but they came out fighting, man. I think they both finished with like 9 rebounds, and at the end of the day, they're undersized, and that's all you want to see them do is scrap and fight, because they got enough firepower on the perimeter side to win a lot of games this year.
Yeah, I love that you brought up Jalen Withers and also Jalen Washington. I mean, they both combined for 18 rebounds, but it got to a point it felt like when it came to Jalen Withers, he was just like, to hell with this, man. I'm stretching my game out to 3. I'm knocking down some shots because we need to get back in this ball game. Like, we don't have no time to waste, right? I mean, you have a guy that has played a lot of college basketball. Obviously, he's a transfer from Louisville. So, Tyler, when you have those situations, and of course, Jerel can speak to this as well, along with you, Tyler, and also Ant, you got these older guys where they're like, you know what? We only got a certain amount of time before we make a run. And if we don't take advantage of this time right now, then we're gonna get the doors blown off of us.
Yeah, and the one thing that I'll say to that is I never thought I'd be yelling at my TV for Jay Witt to really be hemorrhaging a three, but if you look at this game, he provided a big spark for this team. I mean, he hit a couple threes late in the game, and then he went to the hoop and finished on a layup. I thought, even before the season, I thought he could be a really good player for UNC just because of their lack of size. And he's a guy that can provide a lot of athleticism, and he's an older guy. And I really feel like he's going to kind of develop into a good player this year. But the other thing I will say about this game, and I knew this coming into it, for UNC to really be good, I really think that Drake Powell and N. Jackson, those two talented freshmen, I really feel like they have to be big contributors to this team. And I do think that UNC will be a different team mid or later in the year just because those guys are going to develop and they're going to have a big impact on this team.
Yeah, I'm thinking about Isaiah Jackson off the bench as well for UNC, Tyler, and of course Lubin. I want to kind of highlight Elliot Cadeau in this game. He had that opportunity to try and tie it against Hunter Dickinson, shook Dickinson and had some space to try and knock down that three. Should we expect more from Elliot Cadeau now for himself in year two with this situation at North Carolina when RJ Davis may have those nights where he's not shooting the basketball as well to try and help with the scoring aspect of it? Or is it more so with Cadeau, you'd rather see him create and make plays for others trying to get themselves going? Because I know he has that scoring gene. Like we've seen that, going back to last year. Like he's a guy that can really step in and make big shots. But were you expecting more from Cadeau? Anybody can answer this.
We trust that jumper yet?
Go ahead.
I know he's been working on it, but do we trust the jumper?
I'm kind of with Ant on this. And, I will say, if you look at the game when we took the lead, I really felt like our late game execution could have been a little bit better. If you watch that end of the game play, I think it was Jalen Washington who set a screen for RJ to flare. And I was begging for Jalen to re-screen for RJ to come back around the corner and Cadeau pass it to him. I really feel when you have a player like RJ, and you look, even the end of the Elon game when we, kind of struggled, Elon took the lead, RJ took over that game. I really feel like you got to figure out how to get RJ, that last shot just because he is that guy and he's a proven guy. And, even though he had a bad shooting night, I want RJ taking that shot. This is how much trust I have in him. That's what I would say.
I do have a question for Jerel, though. So, Cadeau, he was, 3 for 4 against Elon? So, first thing I noticed in this game was Kansas was going over all of his ball screens. Would you have gone under until he hit one? Because I feel like you go over, you're pretty much pushing him into where his bread and butter is at. You know what I mean? So would you have gone under? And, if he makes a 1 or 2, then we can adjust and go over. But they were going over top from jump.
No, absolutely. And I think that's kind of going to be the scouting report, or it should be the scouting report. Like, look, and I get it. Coach Davis can tell us, and he's got a better feel for it than anybody because he has eyes on these guys. He's with them all off season and everything. But as far as we know, from last year, just based off of the product that we've seen, when the lights are actually on, he struggles shooting the three. So I think still a lot of times the scouting report is going to be under. And if he makes 1 or 2, then we'll adjust. But I mean, just like you spoke to, though, because he's such a gifted passer, is that when you let him turn that corner and get the guard on his back, they're going to be in jail. And he's got the ability to make every pass. Yeah, he is, and he's really an underrated athlete, man. He's a kid I got a chance to watch a while, even back when he was in high school, man. I think he's a hell of a player, and I think the jump shot is just kind of the only thing that's missing. But I think it's going to be like that going forward, and tonight was just the reverse. He looked good the first game and made some shots, and tonight he came out hostile environment. They weren't really falling like that. So that confidence is going to be up and down all year. But I'm just glad to see him that he's taking them consistently. I think that's the biggest thing. I tell guys that all the time. Basketball is such a weird game where it's like, anybody can make 2 in a row and get hot, what they would call it, and it completely shifts and changes the way the defense has to play you. Especially if you're the guy guarding, because you was like, oh man, oh shit, he got 6 quick points on me, so I gotta change something right now. I ain't gonna just keep letting him shoot it. So
making it a tough.
I'm just glad that,
and that's my thing. When you, I mean, just to make it a ball game, right? And because it got to a situation where you're looking at that game like this could get ugly. Like 20 could grow into 30, 30 could possibly grow into 40 with that team on the road in Flagg Allen.
But even further from that is for Kansas. Like when you have a squad like Kansas, all these new backcourt pieces, you can mess around with a bunch of different lineups as long as you're in control of the game, right? You could play certain guys, extended minutes. You can see a little bit more mistakes and lengthen some leashes just to see what they do. But when it gets tight, all that goes out the window, bro. So, like, you go with who you're going to trust to bring home the win. And that's what Bill Self had to do. So, you saw who they had in the backcourt the last few minutes. They had Mayo, Storr, and DeJuan. Mayo and Storr did not start. But at the same time, we have to see who's going to finish these games. And you're going to see when things get tight, you know exactly who coach trusts. That 8-9-man rotation goes down to 6 immediately, right? So, and you also saw who did they run their scoring concepts through? They ran it through Zeke. Like almost every play they ran through, even the play to get Hunter the last layup, Zeke made that pass. So I think overall we found out who Kansas and Bill Self trust right now and how they think of Zeke Mayo. I talked with Hunter over the summer, and I was asking him about El Marco, and I was asking him about Storr, and you know what? He goes, "Hey, bro, look, Zeke Mayo's the truth. Zeke Mayo's nice." So that made me pull up some South Dakota State film. And sure enough, I saw it, and you see it right away. It's translating. I think Zeke can be a little bit better version of what Remy Martin was a couple years ago for them. Whether they want to play him off the bench, just be that guy coming in playing 25 minutes, or they can still start him and hoop it up.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
It's crazy having those guys come off the bench too, man. It's crazy because him and Storr changed their game so quickly, and just to have those caliber of players coming in off of the bench, man, it's just really unfair advantage. If I had to guess, though, I would say that Kansas is gonna kind of do a little bit of soul searching and some mixing and matching until they get the exact lineups and rotations that they love too.
Yeah, and speaking of Storr and also Zeke Mayo, I mean, they combined for 34 of the 42 points off the bench for Kansas, right? I mean, you have a guy in Mayo that led all game scores with 21 points and 50% from the field. So just knowing who he is and knowing his game, like, he's one of those dudes that it doesn't matter really what situation he's in. If he's off the bench or if he's a starter, he's a guy that's going to come in and produce. And I think that's one of the many reasons why Kansas has that number 1 ranking attached to that name. But also, this is the same team, and going back to that final possession. And Tyler, you were mentioning this with Jalen Washington and wanting him to try and change that screen. And I was right there with you. I think you can chalk that up to Jalen Washington being in that situation and not having as much experience in it. But, I'm trying to show a little love for him. But at the same time, he's been in situational basketball and practice to really break things down. But it's different when you're under the lights in on that type of level and platform. But you have a guy in DeJuan Harris Jr. that was face guarding RJ and really made it tough for any screens for RJ to come back to that basketball. And so I think when you think of a guy like DeJuan Harris, who has that experience with this team, you're never going to be in a situation where the Kansas Jayhawks will really just get out of body and just play wild basketball. I know DeJuan was a little bit like that earlier in his time in Kansas, but we've seen his growth and maturation at that point guard spot, and that's special for Bill Self. So if he decides to bring Zeke Mayo into that starting lineup, just that backcourt and just that calm stoicness of both of those players, it could really get nasty for a lot of opponents throughout the season. So we'll definitely keep our eye on the Kansas Jayhawks and, of course, the North Carolina Tar Heels. But just thank you to both of those programs for bringing some old school college basketball back to where they have a home-and-home series. They're not doing it at a neutral court, and you can feel that environment. It kind of felt like a January environment to me, just with those fans inside that building. It was great. All right, we're going to take our first break here on the Field of 68 After Dark. when we come back. Look, we got a lot more to break down because something wild was happening on the airplane that involved the Auburn Tigers basketball team. I don't know what the hell was going on. We'll break it down and see if these guys have some interesting stories when it came to their own experiences with teammates and getting a little too physical.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM for the season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Go download the BetMGM app and use the code FIELD today. Would you be surprised to find out that the Field of 68 is home to more than 35 podcasts? More than 25 team-specific podcasts that are hosted by the people that know what fans want the most. The Goodman and Hummel podcast, the DTF podcast, the A10 Insider podcast, and the Mountain West podcast. But wait, there's even more. The Field of 68 will be launching the ACC Insider podcast this year. Subscribe to this channel and come along for the ride.
All right, welcome back to the Field of 68 After Dark. Cam Smith with my guys Jerel, McNeal, Tyler Hansbrough, and Ant Wright. And if you heard me tease before we went to break about something happening in the air on the airplane with the Auburn men's basketball team, we got to get into this because a plane with that basketball team turned around about 45 minutes en route to Houston because they're preparing for their game against the Houston Cougars. An incident involved multiple players, according to the sources to the Field of 68, began as horseplay, and we know how that horseplay, especially with guys that have some, egos involved in it, and somebody's playing around too much, and it escalated. So, according to Fields of 68's Jeff Goodman, everything begins to escalate. There was yelling, and at least two players were face to face. However, there were no punches thrown. Now, the team returned, and another plane arrived to take the team to Houston. This is the 11th ranked Auburn Tigers, who are set to play the number 4 ranked Houston Cougars tomorrow night at 9:30 p.m. on ESPNU. Fellas, what the hell is going on with the Auburn Tigers that you have that type of situation on an airplane that you have to turn around 45 minutes into the flight? So I just got to ask you guys. I know I played at Southern Illinois that, some things kind of escalate to a certain level. But I've never seen anything escalate on a plane like that en route to get ready for a game. Have you guys experienced anything, not maybe to that level, but just something where it's just like, all right, this is weird. What's going on?
It's that Kelvin Sampson defense, bro. They turned around. But no, I can't even understand how it can even get to that point because, you're flying charter. There's so much room and space on these planes. I don't even know how that can happen. It's right after, and it's right after practice. It's like you got 15 minutes to shower and change your clothes and get on the bus to go to the airport. You got your Olive Garden, and then when you finish that, on the plane is more Gatorade and snacks. That was the most relaxing time for me, bro. I don't even understand how you can get revved up like that to even fight.
But also, it feels like maybe something carried over from practice or the practices before, and somebody took something a little too personal.
Forget maybe 5 seconds later.
Yeah,
they forget. Scuffles happen, and next thing you know, you're dapping up the next play. It's crazy.
I'm definitely calling BS, and I know obviously it's not from our good friend Jeff Goodman, but somebody in that Auburn program is full of shit, man. Come on, horseplay. Just explain to me a scenario where two teammates on the plane fucking around is going to make the plane turn back around and go to the destination that it took off from. How serious did that get? The only explanation I would get, and I'll just say this because I'll bow out and say that I've been trying to think for the last hour just of something crazy that's happened in my time on a plane. And don't get me wrong, generally, and you guys could probably speak for this as well too, but professional travel is a lot more crazy than college. You know, college is so buttoned up, and obviously I probably sound a bit like a dinosaur now, but you know, in this climate, I mean, were they gambling? That's the only thing I could think of. Like, you know, guys play cards on the plane. Somebody lost some of that NIL stipend, or what's going on here? Like, it had to be something. Whereas, like, who makes that call? Was it BP Bruce Pearl? Like, no, man, turn this damn thing around. Like, no, like, did the pilot just like, no, we not doing this today? Like, how crazy was it to have to actually turn the plane around and go back to your destination and leave a day later for a game that you're getting ready to prepare for and play? And how bad is that just on your team, with like, as far as throwing off your schedule and your rest time and, you know, your group meals and your film session? I mean, you guys know all that stuff is like laid out for, you know, a year in advance. Like, they got everything mapped out to a T, exactly how you want to do it. And they always try to make it as, you know, the same way as, you know, just as possible, just because guys are creatures of habit. So, man, I'm just wondering what the hell happened. I would love to know the real story, though.
Yeah, I'm with you, Jerel, because like according to reports, the pilot was heard talking to air traffic control, saying that there are men's basketball players on the plane fighting. And so it's like, again, it's weird because, and I know you guys, leaders of your respective teams, when you're in college, where is the senior? Where is the captain to jump in and be like, all right, let's just chill out, man, because we 45 minutes into the flight. And coaches too, right? Exactly, right. I'm with you on that, but also, why the hell are we turning around 45 minutes into the flight? Like, what's going on, Tyler? I don't know.
And
man.
it's a charter. It's not like you're on
it.
Southwest. You're not on Southwest. You're not on United. You're not on Spirit, bro. Like, this is your plane. Like, what do you mean you gotta turn around? Just keep going. Like, what do you mean?
I can't imagine. It sounds like it was out of their control once the pilots got a hold of it. So it must have escalated to a point where the pilots were concerned, and so they turned around. I can tell you, Coach Williams, I can't imagine if we had to turn our plane around because some guys were going at it. If we turned it around, landed, we'd just go right back to having practice and he'd just run us. But, you know, and you bring up a great point about, you know, it's crazier in professional sports. And I'm thinking here, if kids are starting to do boo-ray on the plane,
a little boo.
That the boo-ray is addicting. So, you know, and with this new NIL era, that would be one part of it that I really miss, is playing boo-ray. You know, because when I got played in the league for a little bit, you know, the Texas Hold'em was a thing with the Pacers, and then you know, when I played with Charlotte, Al Jefferson introduced me to boo-ray, and I mean, that is very addicting, and I love a little gambling. And so I can tell you some of those, you know, when you don't hit, it can be very, emotions can get high. And when that pot gets really big and you make a mess up and you got to match it, you know, I can tell you, I can see some issues with that, but I doubt they're doing that. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's my thing.
I couldn't
like,
imagine
the
stats
NIL era.
college.
Yeah, no,
I couldn't imagine having
it's like
stacks,
were they playing like big bank take little bank, and you know, again, like somebody got really emotional because their pockets were not as heavy as one of the teammates. Like we're all trying to make sense of what possibly could have happened, and we just want to kind of tailor this to a certain extent, but and wait for more information to come out. But a lot of things with this story, and just it's just a bad look on the program. Right, on a number of different levels with Auburn. And obviously with the agenda at hand for them was to travel to Houston so they could play tomorrow night against a big-time opponent in the Cougars. So mentally, everything is thrown off. Now, I know that you went back and maybe whatever team meeting or conversation was had, but that's still playing in the back of your head. And if those players possibly that were involved in this alleged scuffle or altercation or horseplay, I'm putting up the air quotes, how does that affect them on the court tomorrow night, right? I mean, there could be situations where they don't want to pass the ball to each other or help the helper, in certain situations.
I can
Honestly,
I can just imagine from a fatigue standpoint, they probably still they got to still be running. Like they have to be running. Like it's got to be like somebody got to pay for this. Like we're gonna be a complete day behind. Like I'm just talking from my experience. I'm sure some of you guys' experience was like, dude, if they have the pilot has to turn the plane around, like we're gonna go right back to the gym, and we're gonna be dead ass tired for that game tomorrow. And essentially, we'll just chalk it up, and coach probably wouldn't care if we won or lost because he's gonna try to teach us a lesson. So I mean, I just don't understand how under any circumstances they gonna be raring to go in there and play a tough Houston team on the road. So it makes zero sense to me. I think it's gonna be hard. Obviously, if you're a betting person, I would take Houston, whatever the hell the spread is tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely do that.
How far is Auburn from Houston?
That's a great question there.
I'm
not sure on what that is. Yeah,
I would imagine the flight couldn't be any more than 3 hours, maybe 2 or 3 hours, maybe.
Right, because again, if you
That's
turn
a
around
9 to 10 hour drive, so they're not doing that.
Very true.
Not 10 hours.
But Jerel,
man, we would have went back to the airport. We would have dropped off everybody, and then whoever was in there would have been dropped off, and the plane would have took right back off.
Gotcha. Jerel, I saw you start to get pissed a little bit. Like, man, if we got to go back and reboard the plane and do all that stuff, like somebody got to pay for this.
I ain't gonna lie, because I was about to say shit. He might be dead before we even get back to the airport. So, because we like just the way our team's built, like, dude, we about to turn around because these dudes acting like dumbasses. Like that's crazy. Like you said, but I mean, I guess it's just somewhat of a reflection of the leadership and everything in that too. And that's not to say that the guys aren't leaders. Who knows? Some of those older guys might have been on that sleep already, had to ate they little food and laid on down, put their AirPods in or whatever. And, so, but just saying, like, man, that's just unacceptable. It can't happen. Not right before a big game. So, when you actually going to travel, we always looked at it as business trips. I thought that's what everybody said at least. So.
Yeah,
ball.
I think everybody said that, but yeah, for sure. All right, let's put a pin in that conversation because we got to go to break. When we come back, we got to talk about the Alabama Crimson Tide, who had a little struggle in their game tonight.
There is no sport in America that is more difficult to follow than college basketball. It can be overwhelming. That's where the Field of 68 Daily comes into play. The Daily is your go-to source for injury updates, recruiting news, and transfer portal additions that actually matter. For just $50 a year, get access to the same information that your favorite team's coaching staff is subscribed for. Quality content can be hard to find in the college basketball space. The Daily is here to help you with that.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Field of 68 After Dark. Cam Smith with Jerel, McNeal, Tyler Hansbrough, and Wright. And fellas, we're moving it forward because we're going to talk about Alabama, who faced off against Arkansas State tonight. And normally when you think about this Alabama team, you think high-octane offense, a lot of scoring, a lot of up and down, a lot of highlights, but that really necessarily wasn't the case against Arkansas State. They really, honestly, barely got by in this game. You look at that final score, 88-79. You don't expect that type of just inconsistency with a team. I know rankings are relative, right? But also a team that is legitimately could be and has a resume to be the number 2 team overall. But Tyler, when you look at this Alabama team and how they performed tonight, is it one of those, it's early in the season, we still working on some things until trying to, incorporate some guys, some transfers, some portal guys into our system to really get into our groove? Or is this a little look into maybe some issues that we could see with Alabama throughout the season?
No, I'm not worried about Alabama. I actually think Arkansas State may be better than what a lot of people are thinking, but it just shows you that sometimes it takes a while for guys that you pick up in the portal. And I know they have a heck of a freshman class as well. It takes a little bit for that to develop. I'm a big fan of Cliff Laurier. I've always I thought he was the best player in the portal last year. But, I think Alabama's this is a bad night. And they also shot 19% from the 3-point line. So they're not going to continue to do that.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, you have to start Mark Sears going 0 for 5 from 3, 4, 12 from the field and only 19 points. So, Jerel, you have these situations where nobody's going to play a perfect game. Obviously, you're going to have off nights. But when it comes to this situation, it's more so, and like Tyler mentioned, like this Arkansas State team is better than what a lot of people would have imagined coming into the situation. But also with Alabama, breaking down that film, that next practice is going to be hell for those guys. So as a leader like Mark Sears is with this group, what do you think that message is to his teammates to really rebound, to bounce back?
I mean, I would be more interested just to see what kind of the inside of their team makeup, almost to a point where it's like what would Nate Oates' message be as well? Because I feel like just watching him since he's kind of been there. I'm like Tyler. I'm not sweating this game at all. I feel like this kind of plays into exactly who Alabama is. They're a team that can pretty much drop 100 points on you on any given night. And defensively, it's kind of, it's selective. They're gonna guard some nights better than they are on other nights, but at the same time, I've come quite accustomed to them coming out and giving up 80 points to guys where it's like, shit, I don't know most of their roster's names. So I'm not really surprised by it. It's almost like defense is a little bit optional for Alabama, but at the end of the day, they shoot a ton of threes. They got offensive firepower and they can fill it up. They got really good players, possibly the best guard in the country. And some other really good young pieces as well too that they added to the mix. So I think this is just it's kind of their DNA and who they are. Like one team drops 80. Well, we didn't play great. Sears didn't shoot the ball great, and we still almost scored 90 points and we won by 10 almost. So it's like that's kind of who they are. They probably just gonna rinse it off and pick up and be ready to go for the next one.
Yeah, for sure. Because that schedule for Alabama is looking really rough. I mean, you have McNeal, you have Purdue, Illinois, Houston, Rutgers, North Carolina, Creighton. Like it's all down the line for that team. So you would rather, in my opinion, have one of these games where you learn some things about yourself, and like Jerel said, just kind of rinse it off, wash it off, and be better for the next opponent, which will be McNeal. So what are you taking from tonight's game with Alabama? Then also with that upcoming schedule as I laid out, how do you feel on how they match up moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, just like the Kansas game, I thought a game like this is going to be perfect for the coaching staff to get on film. Arkansas State wasn't afraid of Bama today at all. Bama does play more of a finesse game. I'm a big fan of Mark Sears. He's starting beside a freshman. I'm not that high on Cliff Amori. I watched him at Rutgers for 4 years. The last 3 years, he really didn't get much better. If he's not dunking the ball, he doesn't have great touch around the rim. Good rebounder, decent paint protection, but he's going to have to get much better with his finishing around the rim if he is forced to finish from 4 to 5 feet and out. I feel that Arkansas State's guards were just so physical, especially off the ball. So it took Oates and Bama to really adjust to it. They weren't as free-flowing as they usually like to be, and that physicality really took them out their game. But they did adjust to it to get the win. But, they have some new guys too, so a little bit of adversity isn't that bad. But as you said, they do have a really good, schedule coming up here. But this game probably foiled a couple of game plans where I think they're going to be a lot more prepared for it for sure.
Yeah, speaking of the schedule, one of the teams on that schedule is Purdue, and that's going to be one of the teams that we break down after this break, along with Duke and also the Fighting Illini from the University of Illinois. So stay with us. We got more. Well, actually, we're not going to go to break. We're still going to stay here and break this thing down because we're going to first go with Duke and talk about that team. 3 of their 5 starters are freshmen. Obviously, we know Cooper Flagg and just all the hype around him, but also the hype is real because he is that good and that legit and that elite. But Con Knipple has been a guy that's opened up a lot of eyes just with his shooting, and not even just with the shooting, but his movements. They've been impressive to me in how he's getting to the basket and how he's controlling his body with contact and still being able to finish. So this is a Duke team that was led by freshmen again in that win over Army, and just kind of watching the game and some of those highlights. I know that Cooper Flagg is getting a lot of love, but Knipple is a dude that is really placing himself in that lottery conversation for the 2025 NBA draft.
He's tough, man. He gets it done. He's out of Wisconsin, just another recruit that Wisconsin can't get from their own state. Real good player, bro. I can't help it, bro. It's so crazy watching. Like, it's so crazy watching like NBA, watching college games, the dudes going off. I'm like, damn, where's he from? Oh, Otsego, Wisconsin. Oh, that's crazy. Oh, he's from Milwaukee. That's crazy. And they can't keep anybody at home. Like, can Greg Gard knock on anybody's door in Wisconsin? Like, what is going on over there, bro? Like, he's an absolute killer, man. He's an absolute killer. Real good player. I love to watch him hoop. I love to watch players who don't rely on athleticism being able to still go out there and cook cats. Like, that dude is a lot of fun to watch. If you got kids and you want them to learn how to hoop, that's someone who you want to watch. You know, someone who's got, you know, skills over anything else. And he's got a lot of skills. And then like Cooper Flagg is nice too. I do hate the fact that like his mixtapes have kind of messed people up with how they view him. Like all that, like the cross and the step back threes, like that's cool, but like that's not what makes him him. Like he's a superstar in like intangibles. Like he is so tough, defending 1 through 4, getting deflections, energy in transition. Common Malek's not that good to me. He's a little raw. I hate raw bigs. But outside of that, bro, I mean, Duke's gonna be all right. Need Tyrese to play a little bit tougher. Really give that, get that Australian energy. Duke needs that this season because he's got to lead these young boys, man. But yeah, I love Khan's game, man. I love his game, I was not shocked to see where he was from.
But also, when you brought up Tyrese's name, that was the one thing that stood out to me with what he has to do this season. And that's lead this team and not just be a vocal leader, but do it by example, right? Like Proctor has to be that guy if Duke wants to do anything of significance this season. And it's not just trying to win or winning the ACC, but winning a national championship. Like that's of course, that's how they measure things for themselves. So if Proctor isn't going to be that guy, and it has to be Caleb Foster, and this is no knock on Caleb Foster because I like his game, but I don't think that he's positioned to be that leader to really help this team in that backcourt because I'm still unsure what Caleb Foster is. I know he's playing off the ball with Proctor being the main on-ball guy. So it's got to be a question and really an answer of when Duke needs a basket or they need a calming force out there on the court, who is going to be that person for them, especially out of the backcourt. And Jerel, you mentioned this earlier of, if you got guards, then you're never out of a game and you can really have a deep run, especially in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, and I think with Duke, and I guess I'm going to be late to the train or whatever it may be, but I'm still not completely sold on them yet. And just it kind of speaks to exactly what you were just talking about, Cam. It's just the youth, man. The youth. And that's not to knock them. Just like Ant said, I've been watching both. I've got a very close look at both of those guys over the last couple of years on the EYBL circuit. And he hit it on the head with the Cooper Flagg thing. I think a lot of people get carried away with the highlight stuff. Man, the first thing I noticed when I saw that kid play was like he had like 11 blocks in the game that I saw him have. And he was a dominating defensive presence, and his energy is infectious. He's a great rebounder. He just plays basketball the right way. So it was like he said, intangibles is kind of what's going to make him super special, make him a ton of money. And Knipple is the same way. We actually had a chance to play him. We had a good team I would say the year before last, and I think he led the EYBL in scoring. But man, can give it to you any way you want it. Probably can't jump over a phone book. Kind of built like a back catcher a little bit. but can shoot the piss out of the ball, got dribble pull up, can post up, has good positional size, man, understands angles, knows how to use his body. My biggest thing is that if those older guys don't lead, though, I think we still overstepping, man. Like the college has become such a grown man's game. Is that like you can't rely and have Cooper Flagg be the guy that's talking in huddles and telling guys where they need to be on the floor. It's either gonna have to be, it's gonna have to be Proctor or Foster. You know what I mean? Those are the guys that have been there. They're kind of the elder statesmen now, so they're gonna have to take the bull by the horns. They're gonna run into some tough environments, some tough games. Some of these younger guys have never really experienced before. They're gonna be experiencing for the first time. You got to have veterans that's gonna step up and lead. At least show them, like, look, this is how we do it. This is how we weather the storm. Kind of just follow me, and we kind of find our way out of the darkness. So we'll see. I'm really interested to see, though, because they have a pretty good schedule as well, too, just when they start kind of getting challenged with some of these tougher games. They'll be a fun team to watch either way, though. They got an exciting group.
Yeah, that's 100% truth on that one. And to your point of you and talking about the intangibles for a guy like Cooper Flagg and Jerel, you were saying that EYBL game, I think he had like 11 blocks one game. Well, tonight he had 3 blocks. He had 2 steals and finished with a double-double with 13 points and 11 boards. So it's other things that he does out there instead of just with the crossovers and the dunks, right? And that's what makes him one of the best, if not the best freshman in the country. And I feel that he is the best freshman in the country. But let's talk about this Purdue team and thinking about obviously what they lost in Zach Edey. You have a number of different players that have gone on, but this is still a situation, Tyler, with Purdue. They have that firepower. I mean, the shooting has not left when you have guys like Braden Smith and Foster Loyer, and look at what they were able to do tonight in that 22-point win against Northern Kentucky. I mean, those two dudes combined to go 7 of 12 from 3. So shooting is always a premium in college basketball, but veteran guys that can shoot the basketball is definitely a premium, Tyler.
Yeah, definitely. And, when they were playing with Zach Edey, we always kind of criticized them. And it seems like they did take a step forward in their development, every year. And now they're kind of more veteran players. I'm a big fan of Fletcher Loyer. I think he's going to improve and continue to be a good player. Braden Smith is a guy that has really developed too, so they can lean heavily on them. And we talked about it. Jerel mentioned when you have good guards that are smart and they've played in big moments, I think that you can lean on them to get you wins. And I've always been a big fan of Matt Painter. I think he does a great job. I think he's really developed as a coach, and I like a lot of his schemes and the way he draws up plays and he approaches the game. So I'm a big believer in him as well.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Tyler. I mean, Coach Painter coached me my freshman year at Southern Illinois. And one thing I know about Coach Painter is that he will get the best out of you and he will challenge you. And if you don't want to step up to that, well, it's a nice spot on that bench for you. So guys like Fletcher Loyer and Braden Smith understand that, like they've been through it. But again, these are veteran guys that know how to win, right? And so when you look at this Purdue team, what's that ceiling that you see for them, Tyler? I mean, anybody can jump in on this, but Zach Edey is no longer there, of course, but what is that ceiling for this Purdue team realistically?
If they can finish top 5 in the conference, I mean, if they could finish top 5 in the conference and make it to the second weekend, I think that'll be a hell of a year for them. When you're talking about Zach Edey not being there, and I think losing Lance Jones, that's somebody else who was very, very important to that team. It really showed that you put a decent guard next to Braden Smith, that makes Braden's game so much easier. So I think they're trying to find that with Jakari Harris and also with CJ Cox. Both are freshmen, right? So you're replacing Lance Jones, a fifth-year senior, with 2 true freshmen. So they may need some time, but they're about to see a tough road here of growing up quickly. There's not going to be too many bye games here to really kind of get your feet wet. They're going to be thrown right into the fire here. So as long as Jakari and CJ Cox can continue to get better and improve of being that off-ball guard for Braden, that's going to be huge. Fletcher was able to, finally gain some weight this offseason. It does look like he gained between 12 and 15 pounds. We saw that in the national championship game where he looked like a child compared to the UConn guards, and I think him and the coaching staff showed him that film, took it to heart, and gained some good weight. and then you got to replace Edey, and that's going to be a what would you call like a by committee deal. You're going to have Daniel Jacobson, who's going to be a true freshman. You have Will Berg at 7'2". Jacobson's about 7'3", 7'4". Berg 7'2". Raleigh Burgess from like 6'11". TKR is in that 6'9", 6'10 range, who can play the 5. So if they want to go small, I think they will in big stretches in the second half and throw Cam Heide at the 4. But this is going to be Braden Smith's team, point blank periods. Braden Smith's team. I want him to be more aggressive. The first game, I think he had like 12, 8, and like 15 assists or something like that. He's going to get a triple-double at some point in the non-conference. Yeah. You flirted with it last year. You flirted with it in the first game. Go ahead and get that out the way. Stop messing with numbers. Go ahead and get it. But I want him to be more aggressive. I want him to look for his a bit more. I want him to be able to go hard and create a bit more. I feel that he gets a little bit lukewarm coming into games. I like today where he came out, he came off a screen and he popped a 3 right away. I want to see more aggressive Braden Smith moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. And he definitely has that ultimate green light within the offense for Matt Painter and the Purdue Boilermakers. All right, we're going to take our final break here on After Dark. When we come back, we got to give you our answers and our choices for Toast of the Night. So make sure you stay with us.
Now that the college basketball season is in full swing, you need to make sure that you have access to the best betting tool on the market, the Rhythm app. Spelled RITHMM, is a data-backed app that uses AI and analytics to identify inefficiencies in betting lines and the player prop market that will allow you, the user, to profit. You can create customized, analytics-driven betting models tailored to your personal preferences as a bettor. Users have access to up-to-the-second against-the-spread data. And if you're like me and you understand pictures better than numbers on a screen, Rhythm's internal trend analysis provides you with the kind of graphs that will allow you to evaluate past results and project future performance in a visual way. Every Division I college basketball team is included in the Rhythm's metrics. Free subscribers to the Field of 68 Daily will get 25% off for a Rhythm subscription. Use the QR code on the screen to sign up or download at the link in the description.
All right, we have reached our final segment here on tonight's edition of Field of 68 After Dark. Cam Smith, Jerel McNeal, Tyler Hansbrough, and Ant Wright. Jerel, I got to start with you on this one, man. Former Big East legend. Obviously, you see what's going on in Villanova with Kyle Neptune and that program. You would have thought that the succession plan for the Wildcats was in place with Jay Wright stepping aside and moving on from coaching and handing the keys to the program over to Kyle Neptune. But I don't know if Jay Wright envisioned things going like it's going, because that loss to Columbia for sure was eye-opening. But it wasn't even just that loss. It was even last season to how this program has been really not the same, right? And you expect that on certain levels, but the drop-off for the Wildcats has been crazy, man.
Yeah, and I think, like you spoke to already, it's hard whenever somebody with the resume and just the coaching ability that Jay Wright has come and shown that he has over the years at Villanova. He's essentially built that program into a blue blood. You call it a new age blue blood or whatever you want to call it, but that's where they were at when Jay Wright essentially left that program. So it's going to be some time and a little bit of a downslide after you have such a major shift like that in most cases. But with the last 2 years that I've seen, I think the most concerning thing is that they don't seem like they have a direction. Last year, we all got all excited about them. They had put together a really good roster through the portal and things like that. Never came together. They had a couple big wins, and then they had some really bad losses. And it's just been kind of it's been snowballing ever since then. And then just to come back this year. And I watched a ton of just like the Big East Media Day and stuff, and it seemed like almost like they were relieved because it wasn't as high expectations weren't as high coming into this year, I think. And it almost seemed like he was a little bit relieved that, he kind of maybe got some of the BS out of the locker room and didn't have to deal with so many different new guys or egos or whatever it may be, and that he thought he was going to surprise some people. And then, lo and behold, we come out and, they got spanked at home by Columbia. And I got a chance to watch a good portion of that game, especially the second half. It wasn't that close. They got outplayed thoroughly. So I think the biggest concern is just that it's not that, he's had a bad loss here or there. It's where's this program going? Where are you going to start to build your foundation? Where are you going to get some guys in that are going to be here for some years to come, and they're going to be Villanova type guys that are going to end up with over 100 wins when they lead a program or something like that. You need those cornerstone guys still in college basketball. I feel like you may not be able to keep them for 4 years in all cases, but you got to have some type of some type of experience in guys that have been there that you retain if you're trying to create your own culture. And essentially, the Villanova culture as we know it is kind of hanging on by a thread. So we'll see what happens with the rest of this year, but once they start playing some more, I feel like they just got to be on high alert for all of these games. If you count Neptune, it's like I can't take one. I don't know if I'm gonna make it through one more of these. So it is what it is now. We'll see what they do with it.
Yeah, if they have more bad losses, then obviously that seat for Kyle Neptune will be so hot that he won't be able to sit down and he will be out of there. And that's just how it works, right? I mean, let's just be real about that situation, because there's a certain standard that Villanova has worked itself to be, and they've achieved that. They're not trying to drop down to be a team that, you can look back and say, remember when they did this? And that felt like 20, 30 years ago. It's not that. So they have to make sure that they find somebody, and maybe Kyle Neptune can have a resurgence and find something with this team. But the way their makeup is now, I can't see it. But we're going to see what's going to happen with this Villanova Wildcats team. Now, speaking of bad losses, we got to talk about Gonzaga and Baylor. Like, Baylor just got smacked. 101 to 63 against Gonzaga. And you have a situation with this Baylor team, you get embarrassed. Let's just call it what it is. You got flat out embarrassed in front of your family and friends in the entire basketball world. But now also you have another opponent coming up tomorrow night in Arkansas that wants to do the same thing against you. So, Tyler, when you see this matchup with Baylor and Arkansas, but more so just focusing in on Arkansas, are they in a similar situation to where it could get really ugly really fast with them?
With Baylor, I believe in Scott Drew. I always think that his teams kind of peak at the end of the year. I think it would be a little bit of an overreaction to kind of write them off right now. But this Arkansas team is young, athletic. Cal got his guys from Kentucky. So, I think this is going to be a good game. I actually think that Arkansas is going to end up being one of the better teams in the country by the end of the year.
Yeah, no doubt.
I'm with you there.
Down with his coaching.
I'm with you there.
No, go ahead.
I do think, yeah, man, Cal's teams, they can get better and better throughout the year. I do think that this is a dangerous game for Arkansas. I know Tyler didn't experience this much because his Carolina teams killed everybody, but I've been on the end of some beatdowns in college. And a lot of times, man, that next game, doesn't matter who you're playing, that next team is in for one. So for Baylor to go out and lose the way that they did, be ready to play this game. And they're not going to be embarrassed. This should be a good game, but they're going to have a chip on their shoulder to show people that, that was not going to say a fluke, but that wasn't us. That wasn't our identity.
Right. And it's either one or two ways, Jerel, you can take this. You can either, get yourself together, find your heart, and go out in this matchup against Arkansas and just go out there and get your respect. Like that's what you have to do at the end of the day. Or you can take the other approach and just compound this nasty loss against Gonzaga where you just got ran out the gym and get run out the gym again, knowing the athletes and the star power that Cal has with the Razorbacks.
Yeah,
Does
I
Cal have
think
any
just
sons on the team?
If he does, don't put him in the game. Don't put him in the game if he does. please. He should. Don't dress him. Don't do any of that.
BJ, I need you. You got to dunk on the seed right quick, bro. You got to dunk
Nah,
on the
man. Hey,
seed.
run off the
Get
court if
ahead
you
of
see
it.
VJ coming down the lane.
No, but I was just gonna say I think that's really a healthy fear to have. It's just when you line up and you stack up against teams of these caliber this closely to one another this early in the season. You should have a healthy fear that hey, we just saw if things don't go right and we don't do what we supposed to do and we don't stay together that we can get the doors blown off of us. So I think that's a healthy fear to have, especially going into this game. But kind of like Tyler spoke to, I got full confidence in Scott Drew. I still think he's probably one of the top 5 coaches in the country to this day. But he does have a lot of new working parts as well too. But again, that's another team I feel like they got good guards. They got really good guards. So it's going to be a matter of them figuring it out with with Nunn and VJ. He's obviously younger, so he's going to have to get some game reps under his belt so the game slows down for him a little bit. But I think they'll be fine. I also like the big guy from Miami that they got through the portal, Omir. So he'll help shore some things up inside. The biggest thing for them is just they got to figure out a way to defend, and that's kind of usually what Scott Drew teams are kind of strongly built upon is that they guard the hell out of the ball and they kind of in sync defensively. And just with new pieces, it takes time. So I think they'll be good. I think we'll be in for a really good game with them in Arkansas.
Yeah, no doubt. A good program with some veteran leadership, too, when you think about Jeremy Roach. You talk about Norchad O'Meara as well. So with a guy like Scott Drew, you expect this Baylor team to bounce back for sure because they were humble against Gonzaga in that 101-63 loss. All right, fellas, we reached that point of the night to reach and raise our glasses and give our toast of the night to a particular player or team or situation. So, Tyler, go ahead and start us off, my man. Who's that toast of the night for you?
I hate giving toasts to teams that lose, but my Tar Heels, I'm going to give it to Jalen Withers. He found himself tonight. I know he's been working hard, so I'm glad to see that he led a little run late in the game.
Nice. I love that. And again, Jalen Withers said, to hell with all this. We need to get back in this game. I'm about to take these threes and get to this basket so I get my boys back into this. All right, Ann, who you got, man? What's the toast of the night for you?
Sorry, I had to get my little hydro frog. No, but it's man, it's gonna be LJ Thomas, bro, from Austin P, the 6'2" guard from Plant City, Florida. Had 29 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals in the upset win at Baylor with Caitlin Clark watching from the stands. Like, that's just all around W. They got a W. The program just got a fresh new paycheck to pay for everything they need this offseason. So that's a W for everybody, man. Shout out LJ Thomas from Austin P.
Nice. LJ Thomas showing up and showing out with Caitlin Clark in the building. Love that. All right, Jerel, what you got for us?
I'll take the easy route out. I'm going to go Zeke Mayo, Kansas. Obviously, we all kind of got a chance to watch that game, and that was sort of like the feature game or the biggest game of the night. But, man, made some really big shots down the stretch. Kind of had it going all night long, especially even when Kansas gave up a big lead early. They were able to kind of sustain and make a run there at the end and get the fans back into the game. And I don't think it happens without him. So that's my toast of the night.
Nice. Look, I would love to go with another team or game or player, but I'm going back to that game between Kansas and North Carolina because – getting back to what we talked about earlier, that game could have easily been played at a neutral site. So shout out to Kansas and North Carolina for not ducking each other and not ducking smoke and playing that game in Allen Fieldhouse. It'll be at North Carolina next year. So toast of the night goes to those two teams not ducking smoke and bringing those good vibes back of real competitive basketball in somebody's home environment. So it was great for the game and also for those two teams. All right, fellas, that does it for this edition of Field of 68 After Dark. For my guys, Jerel McNeal and Wright, the Tyler Hansbrough. I'm Cam Smith. We appreciate everybody for tapping in with us tonight. Make sure you tap in with the Field of 68 every night because we will be with you throughout the college basketball season. Look, it's just getting started. We got a lot more coming your way because we're going to have some great players and some great games waiting for you.